Marilyn Jacobson.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mitch Meyerson, was that you seconded? Who said second?
Mark.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any questions, comments, or discussion before we vote? I see none. In that case, a voice vote is appropriate. All those in favor of accepting Jacqueline Dietrich Bonnie's resignation effective August 11th, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Action item number 2 is a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness for hard application 20-01 for roof and siding replacement at 43 North Main Street. That is in your packet. Harb has reviewed it and approved it. For the sake of discussion, would anybody care to make a motion to approve the COA 20-01?
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? I see none. We can do this also, but I'm sorry. I thought I heard something. All those in favor of the Harb COA, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion also carries unanimously. Next, we're going to consider what's listed as action item number 6. The Central Bucks Regional Police Department building bid in your packet. If anybody properly, we should make the motion, then have discussion. So would anybody care to make a motion to approve the low bid and all 3 bid alternates to PJ Dick Incorporated at a total of $7,930,000?
So moved.
Second.
Covington. Now, is there any council discussion? Comment?
Mr. President, let me just remind everyone that Chalfont's portion is of the $7,930,000 is 14% of that number. There will be other items that we will have to approve, but later. But for this bid, this includes the municipal portion of there's two. This is a large project, and part of the building is Doylestown Borough's new municipal building, and that covers 57% of the cost. So we are sharing equally with Doylestown Borough, New Britain Borough, and Chalfont a third of the remaining cost, which is somewhere around. So our portion is close to $1,125,833. We don't know exactly, but I wanted to make sure the council understood that we are not responsible for the entire almost $8 million.
And this bid did come in under the anticipated budget number, and we have secured funding that will cover them.
And they've also looked at the low bidder, and this company is really, PJ Dick is based in Pittsburgh, but one thing that they have built in the area is the Valley Forge Visitor Center, the new one that's a couple years old. And they have other projects in our area, but they found them to be extremely reputable and are very happy to have them as our construction company.
Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Carolyn, is there a construction manager or a clerk of the works that's going to be watching construction?
we have, we appointed that person, and I'm trying to remember the name. Chief, do you remember? Or
Yes, it's Adam Spickle is the construction manager. He's been on board for close to a year now.
Yeah, but they're staying on during election as well.
yes,
And they seem to be familiar with this construction crew as well.
And Marilyn, I think it was important to clarify that as a $8 million project seems pretty bad. Obviously we're
yes, it does.
percentage of a percentage, and bringing that down to the is still.
And I should also mention that Doylestown Borough also received a RACB grant, and our portion of that, so from their grant to Chalfont is $145,000 and some dollars that will be taken off from that part that we owe. But we're applying this evening for another RACB grant from the Chalfont point of view to see if we can get more money towards the building of the police department, as several other municipalities in Bucks County have. If you go to the RACB website, there's a list of all the projects they've approved since like 2008, and there are several police buildings that the RACB grant helped fund.
Is there a way then that we could provide some additional information to this motion? Because the motion reads and sounds like we're about to spend $7.9 million. Is there a sentence that could be added that just, maybe it doesn't hold you to an actual number, but just clarifies their percentage of a percentage that we are not about to spend $7.9 million?
It's broken up as per the agreement, but that figure can't really be dictated down to a certain dollar amount at this point.
I think
We're just approving the total project.
Theoretically, after the motion, after the language that's provided, it could say of which Chalfont's portion is approximately 14%. I would assume that might be acceptable.
It would be 14.33.
Right. Thank you.
would you care
Doesn't
to,
sound like much.
Mark, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. I wanted to know if does the state approve these grants on a rolling basis, or are there specific timelines for approval?
Well, right now, there are grant rounds, and it closes August 12th, this particular grant round. And I imagine that, is it Liz that's here this evening? Might be able to give us a better answer towards that.
Yes, so it is a yearly open window for the application. This is the e-RACB application, which is the first step in the application process. So they're going to review your application. If you get approved, then you'll submit a formal application. You'll know in about 4 to 6 months if you've been approved, and then you have, that one's not like on a deadline. It's just you have 6 months to submit your formal application at that point.
Thank you. So are we on target to make the 12th?
We are.
Okay.
We can be.
If we approve first this item and then the next one. So we have to do our job tonight.
And that original RACB grant that Doylestown Borough got, that was for $1.5 million.
Yes. Yep.
And that went for the whole project, and this grant is specific to the police portion of the building. Is that correct, Liz?
Yes.
Mike, is it appropriate for us to add a sentence at the end of that to say of which Chalfont's portion is 14.33%?
Probably, since there's a motion and a second, it would be amend the motion on the floor to add that language.
Well, if Marilyn would care to make a friendly amendment, she can simply change her motion to add that the Chalfont Borough portion is estimated to be 14.33% of that total, if you would care to do that, Marilyn.
Yes, I do care to do that. So, what John said.
Jeff, would you still second that motion with the amendment?
Sure would, yes.
Okay. So that is the motion on the floor. A motion to approve low bid and all three bid alternates PJ Dick Incorporated total of $7,930,000 with the Chalfont portion being approximately 14.33% of that total. Any other questions, comments, or discussion on the motion? I see none. This has got to be a roll call vote. Therefore, I will alphabetically, it's the easy way because that's how my list goes. Tracy Bowen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Coddington.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mark Glidden.
Yes.
Marilyn Jacobson.
Yes.
Mike Kelly.
Yes.
And Dick Meyerson.
Yes.
That motion carries unanimously. And with that, we now move to a motion to approve submitting the RACP grant application relative to the building of the the Central Bucks Regional Police Department building. For the sake of discussion, would anybody care to make that motion?
So moved. Marilyn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and with this, Liz, you've waited patiently. Do you have anything? Now we can officially talk about this. Would you care to add anything, explain anything to us before you get questions?
I think you guys have a pretty good handle on how it was split up. The RACP is really just built to support your portion of the police department. So 33.3% of the police total construction of that. Any questions?
Yes. When you say this goes toward our portion, is that towards, so let's say it's a $1 million grant, give or take. So does that mean that that's our contribution towards the building? And this might not actually be a question for Liz, or it might have to do with the grant itself. Or does that money, is that money can go toward the total cost of the police building?
That money is going towards your portion of the building. So it reduces your 33% to, it's covering about 23%, and then you'll be left covering about 9% of your 1/3 of the project.
So that's $2 million that we borrowed. If we get a RACP grant, we won't need that. We won't need most of that.
Correct. You'll need significantly less.
But let's not get in a hurry here. Doylestown Borough has already received a portion, so the items in the grant have to be for specific things of the construction, if that's correct, right, Liz?
Correct. We've been coordinating with Doylestown to make sure that their RACP application and award was for the entire project, as you've said. So we're trying to keep their RACP funds outside of the police department chunk. So there's nothing that could cause any issues if you were to be awarded a RACP.
Okay, so their portion is not going towards a police station at all. It's going towards their building. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're trying to keep it towards the municipal building, their portion of it, and the park.
Now, I believe that's their second application. Are they doing a second application?
They were going to, and there was a statement by RACP that they didn't want to see repeat applications from the same applicant. So they held off on that this year.
Doylestown's money may be redistributed how they're going to use their RCAP funding, but it'll still work out the same. Everyone's been in communication as far as the money may be moved around, but it'll all end up working out the same. If that makes sense.
I think it's a curious question because I was at a ceremony where we all stood around and patted each other on the back about how we got this $1.2 million or $1.5 million for our police station. And it was my understanding that that was kind of being divided across the board on that building. You know, is there going to be some resentment that now we've got our grant and we're using some of their money? You know what I'm saying? Is that it's mixed. And now from what Liz is saying is that that's going to be separate from the police station. It's going to be applied towards their building.
It's potentially based on how, if we were awarded the grant, if New Britain Borough, who is also making an application, if they're awarded. This has really transpired over the last, 6 days. Everyone's been in communication with each other, and it's good for everybody if it all works out. Some of the money, it'll also go towards the project, but if both New Britain and Chalfont get it, that money that Doylestown already received, they will keep for their portion of their building, because New Britain and Chalfont will be adding, more pots of money basically to add to the project.
So
Go ahead, Meryl.
I would just suggest that let's get funded and then we'll worry about it. But there are just specific things that RACB will fund. So Liz has been working on finding a way to apply for those things that are eligible for funding, along with Sean has to put in a lot of work on this also. So I would just suggest that we approve this and hope that we get the money, and we'll solve that problem when it comes. There's also a lot of administration. If you'll recall, when we did, let's call it the Oh Wow Cal project, this is money you receive afterwards, and it takes some administration. And at this point, Doylestown Borough is handling their grant and doing all the administrating of the grant. And we'll have to see how it works if all three of us end up getting funding. That would be a great problem to have. So
yes, and I just bring it up because I know I haven't been part of any discussions as to how that money is being distributed or applied, and I think we need to keep that in the back of our minds because, as chairman, I can tell you that at times the relationship is tenuous, and we need to keep that in mind all through this process as we go through it. We need to keep everybody happy, and that might when it comes to money. Just as with families, money makes everybody a little different. So I think we just have to keep that in mind, that everybody feels that it's been handled fairly.
well, I think we're all hoping that we had that problem.
Yeah, it is a good problem.
All three managers are fully aware of what is going on. This has really transpired over the last couple of days, getting through the weeds on this, and as we've gotten more information. So everybody is aware.
I'm not worried about the manager, Sean.
Okay. Sure.
I'm gonna add to this conversation that up until this grant muddied the waters a little bit on what was going on. Doylestown was extremely generous in apportioning the police portion out to the 3-member municipalities. And I'm going to simply say that I think it's too early to consider how this will be handled, but I do expect that the Chalfont Borough Council will be honorable and fair and equitable in the distribution or the benefit of these towards a joint project. How the mechanics, I have no idea, but that is the cart well before the horse has even heck out of the barn. I don't think it's been born yet, so.
Well, we have at least 6 months to find out. So,
Yes. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Anything else you think you should add, Liz?
No, I don't think so.
That's fine. Anybody else? I don't see anyone. In that case, can this, Mike McGinnis, can this just be a voice?
Yes.
In that case, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it. So we are now renumbering. We are to our current listed as action item 4, just became action item 5, resolution 2020-08, a resolution of the Borough of Chalfont authorizing execution of a cable franchise agreement between the Borough of Chalfont and Comcast of Southeast Pennsylvania LLC. Reading that thing didn't help me understand a whole lot, but it seems to be similar to the Verizon Consortium agreement. You have, Sean, put you on the spot. Do you have any idea of what I believe was 5% contribution from Comcast has been typically in the past?
I do not know what it was before, but I've been told this is a very good contract. I was just talking with some of the people that helped put it together earlier today, and they said that this is a very competitive contract, and they're very proud of it.
Okay. And this goes across a number of units. A number of municipalities are going with this, basically the wording in this contract. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody, for the sake of discussion, care to make a resolution to approve resolution 2020-08?
So moved. Mitch?
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Given it's a resolution, I see none. Am I missing anyone? Okay. Given it's a resolution, we'll do a roll call vote. Tracy Bowen,
Yes.
Jeff Coddington.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mark Glidden,
Yes.
Carolyn Jacobson,
Yes.
Mike Kelly,
Yes.
and Mitch Meyerson.
Yes.
Okay. Oops, wrong place. And that brings us to now action item number 6, formerly number 5, first reading of ordinance number 462. An ordinance of the Borough Council of the Borough Council of the Borough of Chalfont, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, providing for vacation of 007-007 paper located between and parallel to New Jersey Avenue and Bates Drive. Mike McGinnis, do you want to make this official for us?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, so council might recall, the borough went through this process, I don't know, a little over a year ago with a paper street. This was brought up, I think, following a comment made by Barbara Clearman. And if you look at the page immediately following the ordinance draft, there's a highlighted portion of a stretch of a paper street, which is between New Jersey Avenue and Bates Drive. It spans, I think, 4 parcels. It's unimproved. And my understanding is that there's no benefit really to the borough for this continuing to exist. So the sentiment was expressed that council might be in favor of vacating the paper street. If that is the case, we will go through again the process that we went through last time, whereby we would advertise it appropriately. It would be sent to the County Planning Commission, the Borough Planning Commission, and my guess is because of the time frame, we would be back in front of council for a hearing, second reading at the October council meeting, I think, rather than September probably. But it's relatively straightforward, and as I said, it's highlighted on page 83 of the council packet, the portions that would be vacated.
It's extremely interesting. It's a non-continuous street to nowhere.
Yes. That's accurate.
So,
So just out of curiosity, who owns that if we should pass this? Or who maintains that? Or what happens with that?
So each of the parcel owners, those 4 parcels, that would become an additional piece of property that they would own.
So does that tax rate change with the added square footage?
Excuse me? Did you repeat that?
Will they be paying more taxes on added square footage to their lot? And whose lot it goes to the Chalfont Borough side then?
I still didn't hear the second part of the question. In terms of the tax rate, I think that this is a fairly small piece of property. Whether or not the county has a reassessment which is triggered, I find that doubtful, but I can't provide a guarantee. I would say that we would post the properties publicly. So if any of the property owners have an objection to this, they can come to the council meeting and voice their objection, and council can take that into consideration instead of moving forward. The one comment that I would make is it is for paper streets that have not been improved and have not been utilized for the public good. You really have a 21-year period similar to adverse possession where that property actually attaches to that property owner anyway. So a lot of times when municipalities take these actions, it's really formalizing something that if you actually pursued it legally would have already been effectuated as a matter of law. So I do not know the history of all these parcels, but it perhaps is the case that unofficially they already own this stretch of land if they were to challenge this declaratory judgment action or something similar in court. So all I can say, Mr. Meyerson, is we will go through the advertising process. We will make this known to those property owners. Certainly, if they have an objection to this, they're welcome to participate if and when it comes back in front of council, and council could certainly opt to not vacate the street. If all 4 of the owners object, then council is not inclined to vacate it.
So the property owners will get specific notification, Mike?
We post in a very conspicuous portion of the property. So I have to work with Sean to figure out, again, as you pointed out, Mr. President, this is a unique situation, the location of this paper street. So we'll have to coordinate with staff to figure out what we're doing exactly, but we will make sure the property owners are provided notice, not just a newspaper posting. I have to double check to see what we did last time, but we might even send notices directly to those homeowners. I think could be proper and warranted in this situation.
So put simply but not legally, we're avoiding a gotcha they don't know about.
Yeah, exactly. We want to make sure they have the opportunity to voice any opposition or concerns they would have here.
How did this come about?
Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, so just what Michael was saying was some people may object because if you get reassessed, it could be in trouble. But yeah, so what Brian is actually saying is, my question is, anyone know the history of why was this property left over from when they developed this? Is there a reason maybe? Just an oddball thing?
No reason that we're aware of.
Yeah. These things are all over the place. I run into them all the time when people are buying property and it shows up on title. There's some street that was planned there at one time and just never came to fruition. Who knows? I mean, you'd have to go way back to see some of these things. But my question was a little different, Mitch, is how did we discover this and decide to take action on it?
It was a complaint from a New Britain Township resident that backs up to the other side of the property. And he looked it up on a tax parcel map and it shows it is owned by Chalfont Borough. And that's how it came about.
What was his complaint?
That there's a lot of vegetation there. But after talking to him, now he wants to keep the vegetation there. He doesn't want anything to change. But it started us looking into it, so we've gone down this road, and this is kind of a housekeeping item to take it off the tax map, because according to Mike, we don't really have any legal right to go back there because it's been over 21 years.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the case, and you've dealt with this in other municipalities and on behalf of private clients, really the municipality taking action is a formality if the property owner is interested in asserting their rights. But I'm unaware of any communication from the property owners. In this case, we've drafted the ordinance because of, in consultation with staff. If the borough was inclined not to move forward, then certainly we don't need to. My understanding is these property owners haven't contacted the borough to assert rights or complain. But that's why we drafted the ordinance. It's legally, I think, making this a formality of something that's probably informally already vested, but borough is within its rights not to forward if they're so inclined.
Was this street bigger at one time? Because why would it be disjointed? Did other people claim that land over time, maybe?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that, Mitch, to be honest with you. The only
My wife looked it up. She's at the deeds office. She'll find out.
She might be able to find out, yeah.
Yeah, I just realized that.
On a land plan book somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense looking at this, that parcel 26 and parcel 27 would have the paper street continuously run through it, and they do not. So there would have to be some reason why that's not the case, and I don't know what it is.
If you look at the parcel map, you can see where South Taft Avenue goes to the right of Bates Drive. If you look at it in the landscape orientation, there seems to be an opening going to between their lots 194 and 195 headed towards our lot 026. But my understanding is people think this has been over 21 years anyway, and if the landowners have been taking care of the land, it's basically theirs at this point now anyway, right, Mike? They'd have to petition for it if they did.
That's correct, right. It would be, let me say it this way, it would be theirs if they asserted a legal challenge to the property ownership, yes.
Looks like they planned for Taft Avenue to go all the way through at some point. And then there might have been some plan to put a perpendicular street in there. It just never happened.
Would anybody care to make a motion to authorize the first reading and advertisement of ordinance number 462?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Marilyn.
Any question, comment, or discussion? Seeing nothing further, a voice vote to be done for the first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and that concludes the action items. We now move to old business dividers in the Borough Hall meeting room discussion. I think we've kind of concluded this earlier. So if nobody has any discussion, we will move on to new business. Is there any old business discussion? I see none. Anybody have any new business? I see none. Any correspondence, Sean? No correspondence.
Nope.
Do we have any public comment?
No.
Announcements. The next meeting of the Planning Commission will be Monday, August 24th at 7 p.m. Central Bucks Regional Police Commission meets Mondays, July 27th at 7 p.m. Theoretically at Doylestown Borough, but I'm sure it'll be a virtual meeting. HARB meets Tuesday, September 8th at Borough Hall, Chalfont Borough Hall at 7 p.m. And the next meeting of council is scheduled for Monday, September 14th at 7.
Mr. President, that Bucks County Regional Police Commission, that's Monday, the July or August 24th, I believe. Not July.
Okay.
So people know that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
That's what I have on my.
Okay, I don't have my calendar open, but I'm sure you're right because we should have a meeting before. So the Central Bucks Regional Police Commission meeting is August 24th at 7 p.m. And again, I'm quite certain that'll be a virtual meeting. Is that correct, Brian? Yes, okay. At this point, we are going to move to executive session, which will be for the council, the mayor, and the solicitor only. I know, Mike McGinnis, you have to make this legal. Before you do, well, before or after, Gia, I am going to ask you to drop off when we go to executive session because it is for the elected officials only. And Mike, would you take care of the legal necessities?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Let
President.
me know when we do that as well. I'll turn off the YouTube feed.
When we say we're after Mike speaks, I think.
Yes. Pennsylvania Sunshine Law requires that matters be deliberated and discussed in public, subject to certain exceptions. One such exception is to discuss matters of personnel. The council is going to be meeting in executive session at this time to discuss matters of personnel specifically pertaining to the borough manager position. This is a permitted exception and is not anticipated that any action items will be taken or action will be taken following meeting in executive session.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Gia. Too late for you to hear me say that. And you can stop the broadcast now, Mr. Kelly. And he went away. Nope, Jeff. Where did Jeff go? Jeff, did you go away?